Welcome to episode 47 of the Southern Conservative Podcast. My name is Ty. We have a ton to unpack, so sit back and listen carefully. Going back to 2016, we have seen different scandals plague Washington, D.C. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details of all of these scandals because we have too much to talk about today. But I do want to summarize these scandals because they are unraveling very quickly. In 2016, Hillary Clinton was under investigation for her use of a private email server while she was Secretary of State under President Obama. She was also under investigation for her mishandling of classified information. Emails that contain classified information were stored on this server instead of on the government server. It's believed that different foreign actors may have hacked into the server. Hillary was under investigation in 2016. Meaning she had these emails in her possession 3 years after she left the State Department in 2013. All told, 30,000 emails were handed over to the congressional investigators, but 33,000 emails were deleted. There is much speculation as to whether some of the deleted emails contained conversations related to the Clinton Foundation or Uranium One. Hillary said these were private emails that had nothing to do with her work as Secretary of State. On July 5, 2016, FBI Director James Comey announced that Hillary had used extreme carelessness by setting up this private email server and for failing to notice classification markings on emails. But because there was no criminal intent on the part of Hillary, Comey exonerated her and did not believe a prosecutor would move forward and bring charges against Hillary. What we have learned is James Comey actually started writing his exoneration statement months before his public announcement in July 2016, and months before Hillary and other key witnesses were interviewed by the FBI. Peter Strzok, who was a top counterintelligence official at the FBI, helped to write this exoneration statement. The Deputy FBI Director, Andrew McCabe, was also a key player in this investigation. But he had a conflict of interest during the entire investigation that wasn't made known to the public until late October 2016. The Wall Street Journal reported on October 23, 2016, that McCabe's wife received around $700,000 in campaign contributions during her Virginia State Senate campaign in 2015. The contributions were from two PACs with ties to then Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe. Terry McAuliffe is a close friend of Hillary Clinton. On October 28th, James Comey reopened the investigation into Hillary Clinton after emails between Clinton and Huma Abedin were discovered on Abedin's husband, Anthony Weiner's laptop. What's interesting is that Andrew McCabe was aware of these emails a month prior. Why didn't he reveal that information in September? Why did Comey wait until October 28th to reopen the investigation? Because they never wanted to reopen the investigation. They were hoping to make it to Election Day without having to go through all of this again. And surely the perception would cast Hillary Clinton in a negative light if Comey had to announce the reopening of the investigation. And that's what happened. Democrats ripped Comey up and down. Many still blame Comey for Hillary's loss in the 2016 election. In reality, it was Comey who kept Hillary's campaign alive back in July and kept her from being indicted and possibly going to prison. It wasn't until November 1st that McCabe announced he was recusing himself from the investigation. Ultimately, Comey cleared Hillary again just days before the election. Now, July 2016 is when Comey exonerated Clinton. July 2016 is also when the FBI began its investigation into Donald Trump and his alleged collusion with Russia. We know that WikiLeaks was able to get a hold of John Podesta's emails and made those emails public. A man by the name of George Papadopoulos, who was a volunteer on Trump's campaign, was drunk in a bar in London when he told the Australian ambassador to the UK, Alexander Downer, that Russia was in possession of Hillary's emails. Papadopoulos received this information from a London professor. Downer relayed that information to the Australian government, who in turn gave the information to the FBI. Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton and the DNC had paid Mark Elias, a lawyer who worked for the law firm Perkins Coie, over $12 million. That money was funneled through the law firm to hire the opposition research outfit Fusion GPS. Fusion GPS was paid around $1 million by Perkins Coie. Fusion GPS hired former British spy Christopher Steele, who was also an informant for the FBI, to conduct oppositional research on Donald Trump. Fusion GPS paid Steele $168,000 for his work. Steele compiled his research into a dossier. It turns out the dossier was filled with lies, innuendo, and propaganda from Russian sources within Russia. Many top officials in the federal government were aware of the dossier, and so were many in the media. The FBI knew about it because Steele was an FBI informant. The DOJ knew about the dossier. It turns out that a woman by the name of Nellie Orr worked for Fusion GPS and was integral in conducting oppositional research against Donald Trump. Her husband, Bruce Orr, was an Associate Deputy Attorney General at the Department of Justice. Nellie gave the information she had to her husband, who then turned it over to the FBI. John Brennan, who was the director of the CIA, told lawmakers on Capitol Hill about the dossier, including then Senate Minority Leader Harry Reid. Reid then wrote to James Comey asking him to investigate allegations of Trump-Russia collusion, which included allegations that campaign officials, including Carter Page, were meeting in Moscow. Former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper had leaked the dossier to CNN. Steele also leaked the contents of the dossier to various news outlets. All declined to publish stories on the dossier because reporters could not independently verify the information in the dossier. On September 23, 2016, Michael Isikoff published a story for Yahoo News about potential ties between Carter Page and Moscow. Christopher Steele, the author of the dossier, had leaked information from the dossier to Isikoff, which Isikoff used to publish his story. Steele also leaked information to David Korn at the left-wing website Mother Jones. The FBI fired Steele after learning Steele was leaking to the media. Eventually, James Comey briefed President-elect Trump about the dossier. Once that happened, CNN and BuzzFeed went public with the dossier, with BuzzFeed publishing the entire dossier. Accusations ran wild about Trump-Russia collusion, as well as all sorts of accusations against Trump, including an alleged incident that took place in Moscow in 2013, in which Trump had hookers urinate on a bed. It was later revealed that Christopher Steele had compiled other unsolicited information about Donald Trump. Once Steele started leaking information about the dossier, all sorts of people started offering information to him. Some of this information came from Cody Shear, a friend of the Clintons. Cody Shear gave information to Sidney Blumenthal, who was a very good friend of Hillary Clinton, who then gave the information to Jonathan Weiner, who was working at the State Department at the time. Weiner then gave the information to Steele. Some have said this information was used to produce a memo that was not part of the original dossier. In October 2016, the FBI was successful at obtaining a FISA warrant against Carter Page, who was part of Trump's campaign. The bulk of the FISA application relied on information from the dossier, which in large part still remains unverified to this day. The FBI stated it was able to corroborate the information in the dossier. It turns out the story that was published by Michael Isikoff was used to corroborate the dossier. But the source for the dossier and Isikoff's story was Christopher Steele, so the information was never corroborated. All told, 4 warrants were obtained against Carter Page, the first one in October 2016, the other 3 in January, April, and June 2017. Signatures of those who authorized the warrants include James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Sally Yates, Dana Bente, and Rod Rosenstein. Those who signed off on these authorizations swore to it that the information in the applications was truthful and accurate. But the bulk of the dossier has never been verified, and the FBI never independently verified it at the time it filed for those warrants, nor was it ever revealed who funded the dossier. after the Wall Street Journal revealed on October 23, 2016, that Andrew McCabe may have a possible conflict of interest in the Hillary Clinton investigation, he contacted the Wall Street Journal concerning the FBI's investigation into the Clinton Foundation. He told the Wall Street Journal that a top official within the DOJ wanted the FBI to stop its investigation, but McCabe replied that the FBI was going to move forward with the investigation. It was in this October 30, 2016 article that it was revealed that the FBI was indeed conducting an investigation into the Clinton Foundation. A very limited number of people within the FBI are allowed to disclose that sort of information to the press. Investigators in the FBI's inspection division asked Andrew McCabe whether he was the source for the Wall Street Journal's article. He said he was not and did not know who the source was. James Comey asked McCabe if he leaked the information. He said he didn't. But when asked by the DOJ Inspector General's office, he said that he did not recall denying that he was the source of the information, and he claimed that he even told Comey that he was the source and that Comey was okay with it. McCabe was fired by Attorney General Jeff Sessions on March 16, 2018, just days before McCabe was set to retire from the FBI. James Comey was fired by President Trump on May 9, 2017. The New York Times published a story a week later describing a memo Comey had written in which Trump had told Comey, "I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go. He's a good guy. I hope you can let this go." The article drummed up the possibility that President Trump was obstructing justice and intimidating the FBI director. It would later be revealed that Comey had written a total of 7 memos about personal encounters he had with President Trump. And after Comey was fired, he held on to those memos. He wound up leaking 4 of those memos to a Columbia law professor by the name of Daniel Richman. Richman read the memos to a reporter at the New York Times. On Thursday, all of Comey's memos were made public with a handful of minor redactions. Now you have the backstory to all of the breaking news I'm going to cover. Before I get into that, I want to remind everyone to please check out my Facebook page. Go to facebook.com/Southern Conservative. That's facebook.com/Southern Conservative. There you will find links to conservative news articles on stories you may not hear about in the mainstream media. Plus, if you follow the news feed, you'll find links to the daily podcast. Be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel and click on the notifications bell so you'll be alerted each time a new podcast has been posted. New podcasts are posted daily, Monday through Thursday. I told you the backstory to all of these scandals because all of them are starting to unravel. And they are unraveling quickly. The breaking news over the last 2 days was hard to keep up with. There are many moving parts in these scandals now, and I'm going to break it all down for you and tell you what it all means. Let's start with Andrew McCabe. The DOJ Inspector General Michael Horowitz came out with a scathing report on McCabe and how he lied to investigators about being the source for the Wall Street Journal story. The report also highlighted why he leaked in the first place. It wasn't to bolster the FBI and to inform the public about the FBI's investigation into the Clinton Foundation. It was meant to be a self-serving story. Remember, the Wall Street Journal published this story 1 week after it published a story questioning whether McCabe could be impartial in the Hillary email investigation. He wanted to show the public that he could move forward with an investigation into Hillary Clinton by investigating her family's foundation. On top of that, he lied to investigators, and he lied to his boss, James Comey, about being the source of the leak. The Inspector General has now referred the matter to the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. It will now be up to the U.S. Attorney, Jesse Liu, who was appointed by President Trump, to decide whether to move forward with the prosecution of lying under oath. What's amazing in all of this is it was actually James Comey who kickstarted this investigation. Comey had refused to tell the media whether the FBI was investigating the Clinton Foundation. Once the Wall Street Journal had confirmed the existence of such an investigation, Comey wanted to know who told the Wall Street Journal. Hopefully, McCabe will be prosecuted for lying under oath. A message needs to be sent to these people in high-level executive positions within the bureaucracy that they are not above the law. Ordinary citizens who lie under oath or lie to the FBI wind up being charged and later prosecuted. Just ask Michael Flynn, who has been charged with lying to the FBI. Even though Peter Strzok and James Comey both believe Flynn did not lie when questioned back in January 2017. In no way should McCabe skate on this. Catherine Herridge filed a report with Fox News about the discovery of new emails involving the Hillary investigation. The emails point to coordination between the DOJ and FBI after the discovery of 22 top-secret emails on Hillary Clinton's server. Here is part of the story from Catherine Herridge. The February messages reviewed by Fox News start on February 8, 2016, when Gregory Starr, then the Assistant Secretary of State for Diplomatic Security, told FBI Head of Counterintelligence Bill Priestep that the State Department was prepared to punish those responsible for the misplaced messages. The State Department is prepared to take appropriate administrative action for any instances of mishandling of classified information in accordance with our own internal processes, Starr wrote. However, the official added that the department did not want to hinder an ongoing FBI investigation, and if instructed, would postpone the administrative action over the emails until after the Bureau's case had concluded. 5 days later, on February 13th, an unidentified senior Justice Department official wrote to FBI agent Peter Strzok, Jonathan Moffa of the FBI's Criminal Division and the Bureau's Office of General Counsel, as well as members of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Virginia. Wanted to make sure that DOJ is kept in the loop as response is drafted, wrote the unnamed official in the Justice Department's National Security Division. We have discussed a bit more here at CES and have some additional thoughts on the best response on the administrative action question. Can we make sure we discuss as a group as response is put together? CES appears to refer to the Justice Department's Counterintelligence and Export Control section. That section was led by David Loftman, who left the department this past February citing personal reasons. This report comes despite claims from James Comey that he never coordinated with the Department of Justice when it came to exonerating Hillary Clinton. Just days before Comey's exoneration announcement, Attorney General Loretta Lynch said she would accept whatever recommendation Comey would make. This was to dispel the notion of any impropriety after it was discovered that Lynch had met with Bill Clinton just days earlier at an airport in Phoenix. Text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page reveal that it took courage for Loretta Lynch to say that she would accept Comey's recommendation because she already knew Hillary was not going to be prosecuted. We all know Comey didn't want to end Hillary's prospects of becoming president. Certainly Loretta Lynch wanted Hillary to be president. We learned earlier this week that Comey's wife and daughter were at the Women's March in Washington after Trump was inaugurated. His wife and daughter are clearly liberal, and so is Comey. These new emails just bolster the notion that the fix was in from the beginning. Loretta Lynch knew Clinton would be exonerated. Supposedly, she told Comey to call the Clinton investigation a matter to minimize the seriousness of the investigation. Comey claims he felt concerned about Lynch's request, but he had no problem going along with that request. Lynch claims that Comey never revealed his concerns to her, despite having frequently discussed sensitive cases and matters with each other. So there's a lot of finger-pointing here, but the bottom line is the fix was in from the beginning. Comey and Lynch never wanted Hillary prosecuted, and now the DOJ Inspector General is investigating how the DOJ and FBI handled that investigation, and his report is expected to come out next month. Then we have Comey's memos that were released yesterday. I had the opportunity to read these memos. These memos were written very early in Trump's administration. So why are they just now being released? Well, Congress has demanded to see them, but even though Comey had the memos leaked to the press, the leaks were very selective. Reading the memos gives much more context and actually helps defend the actions of President Trump. The memos actually help Trump. They don't hurt him. And the left is absolutely melting down over this. Let's take the case where Comey leaked to the press that Trump had asked him to let Flynn go. As you read these memos, Comey writes that Trump had reservations about Flynn's judgment. There was an incident Trump and Flynn talked about that had to deal with who called Trump first after his inauguration. Trump said it was British Prime Minister Theresa May. Flynn said it was a person whose name has been redacted from Comey's memo. Trump was upset about when he was scheduled to return that person's phone call. Anyway, here's what Comey writes about Trump's conversation about Michael Flynn. He then returned to the topic of Michael Flynn, saying that Flynn is a good guy and he had been through a lot. He misled the vice president, but he didn't do anything wrong in the call. He said, "I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go. He's a good guy. I hope you can let this go." I replied by saying, "I agree he's a good guy," but said no more. Comey never wrote that he felt intimidated by the president's request. And really, it's just that, a request by the president. The president wasn't obstructing justice. He was simply requesting that Comey should let Flynn go because Flynn did nothing wrong. And in reality, Flynn did nothing wrong. The communications he had with Sergei Kislyak would have been completely appropriate. Flynn would have been in communication with all sorts of foreign nationals given his role as National Security Advisor. This memo was dated February 14, 2017, which would have been after the FBI interviewed Flynn, and after the FBI obtained its second warrant against Carter Page. The Russian collusion investigation was active at this time. And as the intelligence community was routinely surveilling Russian nationals, Flynn wound up being picked up in a conversation with Sergei Kislyak, and his name was unmasked and leaked to the media, which is a crime right there. But there's no obstruction of justice here. Trump had brought up Andrew McCabe several times. Comey wrote in one of his memos, "At this point he asked me, and asked me again later, whether your guy McCabe had a problem with me, explaining that I was pretty rough on him and his wife during the campaign. I explained that Andy was a true professional and had no problem at all. I then explained what FBI people were like, that whatever their personal views, they strip them when they step into their bureau roles and actually hold political people in slight contempt without regard to party." Later, Comey wrote, "I again affirmed Andy's ability and professionalism and said that the president would come to see and benefit from both." What we got from McCabe was anything but professionalism. McCabe, just like Comey, is a self-serving individual with a giant ego. McCabe not only lied to investigators about leaking information, but he authorized FISA warrants against Carter Page, an effort that was more than just to spy on this individual. It was a way to get deep inside the Trump campaign, and maybe even to the president himself. Comey never wrote in his memos that he told Trump Carter Page was under investigation and that the FBI was actively investigating his campaign. Get a load of this. Comey wrote in one of the earlier memos, "I explained that he could count on me to always tell him the truth. I said I don't do sneaky things. I don't leak. I don't do weasel moves." Well, he had no problem leaking these memos to his friend, a Columbia law professor. And Comey did not tell the truth to the president regarding the dossier. Comey was never forthcoming about the dossier. In the first memo, he told Trump, who was the president-elect at the time, that the Russians allegedly had tapes involving him and prostitutes at the presidential suite at the Ritz-Carlton in Moscow from about 2013. I said I wasn't saying that this was true, only that I wanted him to know both that it had been reported and that the reports were in many hands. I said media like CNN had them and were looking for a news hook. I said it was important that we not give them the excuse to write that the FBI has material and that we were keeping it very close hold. Here's the deal. Comey never revealed the entire dossier, just the accusations of these lewd sex acts. Trump commented that he was worried what Melania would think, and Trump told Comey to investigate this to get to the bottom of it. Trump knows it's not true, and Comey knows it's not true either, but he doesn't tell Trump this. He's baiting Trump into telling Comey to investigate this matter. But the FBI was already investigating this. In fact, It's part of the dossier they used to get a FISA warrant to spy on Carter Page. This thing was a setup from the beginning. But Comey doesn't do weasel moves, and he always tells the truth. And CNN already had the story. Of course, James Clapper had already leaked the dossier to CNN. And he tells Trump CNN has this story just to put more pressure on President Trump. Trump had no choice but to tell the FBI director to investigate this matter. Comey also doesn't reveal that this information came from a guy who was paid by Hillary Clinton and the DNC. Had Trump known this, he would have been able to brush it off as wild accusations from the opposition party. But he would also have told McCabe to get to the bottom of how the Clinton campaign was able to pull this off. Folks, all of these scandals are unraveling very quickly. And the left's narrative of Trump-Russia collusion, of obstruction of justice, that Comey is going to be the savior for the left by releasing the memos and going on his book tour, it's all crashing down right now. And that's it for today. It was a long podcast, but there was a lot to cover. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back on Monday with another podcast. Have a great weekend, everybody.